A lot of people ask me what specific radio they can use to listen to number stations or what I would recommend. Now, there's 4 things I use to monitor these stations, and you really don't need anything special. So, in today's installment, I thought I'd give you a quick overview on what I use, and one of the things I'm going to show you is well over £1,000, and the other costs absolutely nothing. So, to listen to number stations you need a decent HF receiver that covers as many of the shortwave bands as possible, as number stations use hundreds of different frequencies across the spectrum. At the very least, it should also have SSB or single sideband. SSB is a type of amplitude modulation technique where only one of the sidebands of the AM signal is transmitted along with the carrier wave. The other sideband is suppressed, which reduces the bandwidth of the signal and allows more efficient use of the available spectrum. It sounds complicated, but just make sure your radio has SSB. The receiver should also have a very fine tuning knob to be able to accurately tune the radio to the exact frequency. So I'll show you the receivers I've used to listen to number stations, and this isn't a review video, so I'm not going to go into every single detail, I'm just showing you what I use. The first and cheapest is the ATS20 Plus. This is a full band Arduino based receiver that will receive on any frequency a number station transmits on. It has a fine tuning dial, it supports SSB, FM and AM, and is so simple to operate you really can't go wrong. It comes with a telescopic antenna, but you'll need something more substantial in order to hear number stations, which I'll come to soon. The ATS20 Plus is okay for this purpose. It's probably the worst of the 3 radios I'm going to run through, but it does work. It doesn't have the best filtering, so it suffers from the high noise floor caused by LED lights, power supplies and other electronic devices. It also isn't very sensitive, and I find this works better outdoors in the open, away from sources of interference. You can pick these up for around £40 at the moment, and their internal battery, USB charging facility and ease of use makes it a great starter receiver for shortwave. As for the elusive number stations, you might find receiving them on this more of a challenge out of the box. I tried my ATS20 Plus on a magnetic loop antenna like this, and of course it increased the signals considerably. Antennas like this do make the receiver less portable, and that combined with its high noise floor makes me prefer this radio, the Data D808. This is such a good radio that covers long wave, medium wave, shortwave, HF, airband and broadcast FM. Like the ATS20 Plus, it'll cover all of the frequencies number stations use and has that all-important sideband capability. It has high sensitivity and good selectivity on all bands. It has a fine tuning dial, you can store frequencies in its memories, and it also supports an external antenna. Compared to the ATS20 Plus, this thing is amazing. It has an external battery, USB charging and a direct entry keypad for putting frequencies in. You can either clip a long wire aerial to the telescopic antenna built into the radio or plug one into the antenna jack on the side. Either of these methods helps pull in more signals. I have to say I've heard number stations and the buzzer on this radio just using the telescopic antenna. These are around £80 at the moment and are well worth the money. Of course they're not as good as some of the Sony and Grundig receivers out there, but they're also not the same price. As a rule, the more you pay, the better results you'll get, which brings me on to my main tool for receiving number stations. This is the Icom IC7300. As an HF receiver, this thing does an amazing job. Prices vary depending on specs and extras. I paid around £1,300 for this quite recently, and it's brilliant. This does everything the other radios do and more. It has much better filtering, sensitivity, selectivity, noise reduction and basically everything. There's no comparison. I got the external front-facing speaker, which makes it easier to listen to number stations, and the waterfall display helps you actually see them on the spectrum. This radio is a transceiver, meaning it'll transmit up to 100 watts. Of course, it's not a portable unit without supporting equipment and requires a power supply, But this radio combined with my HF long wire is perfect for receiving number stations, as well as everything else on the shortwave bands. If you're a serious DXer, then this radio is for you. Now, I've shown you the radios and antennas that I use. The next thing is this, an online SDR. This one in the Netherlands is really popular, and for me in the UK, it offers the closest match in terms of real propagation and DX. It's a full HF receiver with great antennas and a low noise floor for receiving the entire range of frequencies that number stations use. You can change the band, frequency, mode as well as filtering, and it also has handy tags so you can see what you're listening to. It's not a real radio in terms of receiving a number station yourself, but you've got a better chance of hearing them here than on any of the portable units I've shown you, and the antenna system is better than mine, so it outperforms my Icom 7300. And lastly, I get asked about frequencies and times. This is actually the easiest bit. The Preon website gives you a live schedule of what number station is on the air and when. It tells you whether it's a voice station or just Morse or data and counts down to the next one. Not only that, it gives you the frequency and mode and a handy link to a web SDR that offers the best chance of hearing the station depending on the location, the time of day, propagation and the target area of the station itself. So I hope that answers the question on what I use to listen to number stations, and it inspires you to take the time to listen too.